This is Doug Vinson. I'm with Pactera in Charlotte, North Carolina. I just want to welcome everyone to this webinar that we're putting on today, 7 Steps to Build an Oracle Big Data Strategy. It's a great topic, obviously very, very timely. We're thrilled that you took a little bit out of your time today and to learn a little something about this from Pactera. And we have a great speaker in Kurt Luke, has a tremendous amount of experience in the topic as well. We'll pause here just a little bit and give you a chance to copy down Kurt's contact information. At the very end, we'll give you an offer you can't refuse, and you'll need the phone number. But nevertheless, Kurt has been with Pactera for the better part of this year, and he's a great speaker on this topic. He has previously owned a company, in fact, that was exclusively an Oracle intelligence, big data, and analytics shop, and then not too long ago, within the last year, joined Pactera to be our practice leader. So at the moment, what his role is to actually go around to Fortune 500 companies and build big data solutions, oftentimes on the Oracle platform. Just very quickly about Pactera, so you know who is actually speaking with you. Pactera is probably the biggest company you've never heard of, mainly because we're a China-based company. We're the result of a recent merger between two of the largest companies in China, and in November took a brand new name, Pactera. So anytime a company starts out with a new name, it's very hard to brand and get the word out. But we are, in fact, quite a large company, again, based in Beijing, U.S., North America, offices based in Charlotte. We have 24,000 employees around the world. We are the single largest IT services provider that is based in China. Although, as you see, we're based in, we're a publicly held company on the NASDAQ under the symbol PACT. So anything you want to know about the company, I think you can find there. We have historically done business with Fortune 500 companies, companies at the very top, $50 billion companies, for instance. Some of the largest banks in the country do business with us. The leaders in high tech, software, hardware, networking devices, and retail also do business with us, particularly around areas like we're going to talk about today: business intelligence, analytics, big data, a lot of offshore development that we do to support our clients as well. As you can see, we are, in fact, all over the world. We have 21 offices in China that are in various Tier 1 and Tier 2 cities, and those are where we do predominantly our offshore development. Nevertheless, our clients are, for the most part, I would say at least 50% of our clients, in fact, are U.S.-based companies. As you can see, we have quite a few offices on the East and West Coast in the U.S., in Europe, in Japan, and Australia as well. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Kurt so that he can talk to you about big data. Hope you enjoyed the webinar.
Well, good afternoon and good morning on the West Coast. I appreciate everybody's attendance today and sincerely hope that we all gather some exciting and valuable information on the presentation. This is certainly an exciting topic and a much talked about topic. We're going to spend some quick upfront time talking about big data, the drivers, predictions, but we're going to really quickly move into a deep dive on an Oracle-specific topic. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so this first slide may seem just a little bit out of place, diving right into the Oracle stack, but I wanted to, for those who are attending who want to be assured that we're going to dig into the Oracle stack, I want you to feel confident on that. So we went ahead and put this right up front. But we are going to start with some higher level strategy discussions. But again, we'll move into the Oracle offerings and how they fit, which components can be are best for you, which components could be replaced with open source solutions, and that sort of thing. So bottom line, if you're an Oracle shop, you have a lot of choices. And that's the good news, and that's the bad news as well. Okay, so I feel obligated, as most big data discussions start with, around the 3 V's and now the 4 V's. So Oracle, this is Oracle's definition of big data, which is pretty compliant with most the typical definitions around volume, velocity, variety, and most recently people have begun adding value. So volume is probably the most mentioned, the sheer volume of data that is driving the need for big data solutions. My take on it is that if it wasn't for some of these other drivers, though, we really wouldn't be talking about big data solutions yet. Velocity is the next one. So the saying goes, speed kills. Social media put the bullet in most of traditional attempts for retail organizations to use traditional BI. Other industries, such as energy, clients are getting overwhelmed by things like smart grid initiatives. Each industry probably has their own reasons for needing this new technology. Variety is the third, and I would say, to me, variety is the real killer for traditional BI. And the reason I say that is having a lot of database architecture and design in my background, it's just very difficult to handle things like social media. They just don't fit with traditional relational databases. So the fourth V is value. And actually we'll be talking around this topic. And the fact is that big data is not a topic that to be talked about on its own. It's really, in the end, it's back to what's the value to your organization. Big data is just a method or a technology to gain value out of additional information, additional data. Okay, so what are the drivers of big data? Well, the first is something called dark data. And dark data sounds like Star Wars, but it's really just the data that we've captured, organizations have captured for years and years, but never did anything with, but people kept saying we might want to do something with it. The data has increased. Some of it's for legal reasons. A lot of it was just because we might want to do something. And so people are now saying, let's do something with that, quote, dark data. The next driver is that organizations have been slowly adding in data to their enterprise data warehouse, but unfortunately at too slow of a pace. The typical story around IT not moving fast enough is really just because business can't wait. They need to keep moving, but the introduction of new technologies has really just piled on the problem for IT organizations. I was recently at a large bank here in Charlotte, where we're headquartered, and the CTO was explaining that the current state just couldn't continue. They couldn't continue to adding additional very expensive components of hardware. There needed to be a different solution. So the sheer cost of adding one more Teradata platform was just frankly becoming too expensive. It was nothing against Teradata. It's just the volume was increasing and increasing. The last driver that we'll talk about is just the explosion of variety. So this is really a lot, as we mentioned just briefly before, that the semi-structured, unstructured, and just plain old unstructured data there's a lot of valuable information in there, but it just isn't storable in traditional manner. So social media is obviously the poster child for this. But other things like audio and video, there's actually a lot of stuff, a lot of great information you can get out of audio, but traditional tools won't get you there. All right, so let's look at some predictions, and then we're going to move into the 7 steps. Okay, go ahead and let's put all those up here. So I'm not going to read every one of these. These are great predictions, and these are actually straight from Gartner. I was recently at a Data Warehouse Institute conference on big data, and the group was reminded that there have been a number of terms and products that were in the beginning were used in front of every product. Big data is certainly one of those for now. I think big data is here to stay, but I predict in a number of years that big data won't be a term that we use. It'll just be another component of business intelligence. The last point that I want to drive home here on these points is that the amount of jobs that are going to go unfulfilled in the big data arena. If you have any college-age kids and you want to push them in a certain direction, big data, predictive analytics is an area that they will not be unemployed. All right, let's keep going. Okay, let's move on through those. So this is the 7 steps. Actually, go back one. The 7 steps to an Oracle big data strategy. We're going to talk at the beginning really around the business side of things, but we're going to spend a lot of time on the big Oracle, build an Oracle big data technology stack, and that we'll actually spend quite a bit of time there. So let's move on. Okay. Business intelligence is and has always been about business, and big data is really not, doesn't change that story at all. I see a number of organizations spinning up big data projects just for the nature of the big data because of big data technology, which is obviously an incorrect way to approach this. The first step in a big data strategy really has nothing to do with big data. It has to do with an overall BI strategy. So we're going to spend just a moment on this slide and the next slide really just talking about an overall BI strategy. If you're going to talk about the seven steps of a big data strategy, then you need to talk about BI strategies and where they fit within there. The point of this presentation really is not to go heavy on a BI strategy discussion, but I'd be remiss if I didn't at least put this up as a reminder. Big data and a BI strategy can't be separated. All right. This slide right here is talking about, or is a typical balanced scorecard. You can pick your different ways that you want to conduct a business strategy and ultimately a business intelligence strategy, but this is one of the ways. So the BI strategy should start with where the business strategy left off. All right, let's move on. Okay. A lot of pictures up here. What we have here is really showing a cascading from the top left down to the bottom right. It's time to get into more of the BI strategy. So this picture shows us how you should move from information alignment exercise all the way down to an information management roadmap. And the roadmap is really just a series of projects that's going to get you from your current state to your future state. For the purpose of the rest of this presentation, we're going to discuss how to approach big data from an Oracle perspective. All right? Okay. The third step in here is after you've conducted your BI strategy, and now you have a series of projects that you're going to conduct. Before you start conducting those projects, you need to have the right people on your team. There are 2 main pieces that I see most organizations lacking. One is easy to fix, and one is not so easy to fix. The easy to fix is the technology component. So yes, big data is going to involve probably, or at least potentially, new resource types. People who understand Java. There's a whole slew of new technology components that the expertise is not common. It's growing, but it's certainly something that's not as common in the marketplace. But that's, in my opinion, fairly easy to fill out through training and that sort of thing. The second is around data scientists, and I think that's going to be the piece that's a little bit more complicated to fill. Data scientists are a special breed. There's a number of schools that are pumping out those type of resources, but it's, in my opinion, that's going to be where we're lacking. So, all right. Okay. So this is a warning slide that from this point forward we're talking a lot about Oracle. So let's go on to the next slide here. Okay. So this slide, I'll let you digest it for just a moment. A lot going on here, but this is really a component of your BI strategy and really looking at it from an Oracle information management roadmap. The picture is showing basically all the components that are necessary to be a world-class information management shop. If you had the perfect organization, all of those boxes would be filled at a maturity or stage level 5. Big data is simply a component of that strategy. Okay? So real quickly, the maturity model on the left-hand side has stage 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Most likely, if you looked at your organization and you were honest with yourself, there will be certain components that you'd be at stage 1, others you might be at stage 3, and so on and so forth. So stage 1 is characterized by organizations that are making decisions based on, frankly, inaccurate and probably incomplete information, and the information is aggregated by various departments or lines of businesses. Some are doing better, some are doing worse. Stage 2 is what we'll call manage. At this stage, organizations perceive the enterprise information management as necessary to be more effective and efficient for multiple business processes across the lines of business. So we've moved beyond just doing things one department at a time, but it's a more comprehensive look at things. The third stage is what's called advanced. At this stage, organizations identify information driven as critical activities for business growth and cost reduction. So there's not as much convincing that you need an information management strategy. It's in the blood of an organization that these are critical components and the organization needs to work together for that. Stage 4 is what's called optimize. At this stage, organizations complete significant portions of information architecture domain components. The enterprise information strategy becomes pervasive, and it's just foundational within all of the business processes. Stage 5, at this stage, organizations extend the boundary of the entire information ecosystem to external sources and channels to provide innovations in organizational growth. So that, frankly, most organizations are not there unless they are organizations that are just really the heart and blood of them is around information management. But the goal is to understand and to take a real look at where are you today and to figure out where you're going to move. For the purposes of this discussion around big data, we need to be real honest with where we're at right now and figure out what's going to be needed to build out that next stage. Okay, so this is digging deeper into the Oracle big data picture. The slide, in my opinion, is probably a hybrid of logical and technical architecture. Moving from left to right, you can see the acquisition of data into various different traditional and now big data storage. Once it's held in storage, we need to organize it and then move into more traditional database technologies. And finally, and probably most importantly, we're going to serve it up to the business. Now, let me just stop right here and be clear that there's literally hundreds of different tools and 100 different ways of organizing your big data strategy. We're going to start with fairly simple Oracle-centric solutions and architectures, and then we're going to talk about different options, different hybrids of that. But the most important thing is really to, back to the BI strategy, is to understand what you're trying to do so that you can figure out which of these components that you need to do. A couple of years ago, and it still rings in my head, I had a CIO, I met with him, and he said, after we had what probably was a very fluffy meeting, he said, I want you to sell me on something. So I'm going to, over the next slide or two or three, we're going to talk about what is the Oracle Big Data technology, and take a real look at that. But if you just bought Oracle Big Data technology, these would be the three components. The Oracle Big Data Appliance, which is an engineered system of hardware and software designed to basically be a big data and out-of-the-box solution. Oracle Exadata and Oracle Exalytics, and we'll dig into each of these so that you can figure out where and which of these components you need for your big data strategy. All right? Okay, so if you had all the money that you want, and money was no issue, this would be the first component that you would want to engage. Oracle's Big Data Architecture. This is big data in a box. Oracle Big Data Appliance includes a combination of open source software and specialized software developed by Oracle to address enterprise big data requirements. So the Oracle Big Data Appliance has the following components. It's a full distribution of Cloudera's distribution of Apache Hadoop. It has Cloudera Manager to administer all the Apache Hadoop. The third component is an open source distribution of the statistical package, R, which is very similar to SAS, but this is an open source, it's an enterprise edition version of it. And then Oracle's NoSQL database, and lastly, this is all running on Linux and Oracle's Java virtual machine. The Oracle Big Data Appliance incorporates Cloudera's distribution within there. So instead of using open source Hadoop, you're using Cloudera's version of that, and we'll talk about why you would want to do that. The Oracle Big Data Compliance comes usually in a full rack. There's a number of configurations, but it's basically under the covers. It's 18 Oracle Sun servers. So you can imagine this is running fairly quickly. The whole thing is engineered to run extremely quickly. All right. Okay, so we talked about Cloudera, and there's a lot of confusion in the market as to, well, why Cloudera? Why not just use open source Hadoop? And you can do both. But Oracle has chosen to partner with Cloudera, much like Microsoft has partnered with Hortonworks. If you want to think about it, Cloudera is what Red Hat is to Linux. Cloudera is an enterprise version of Hadoop coupled with Cloudera-specific components to help enterprise organizations have the security of knowing, frankly, that there's a vendor who can help them, and the old saying of one throat to choke. Cloudera, at this point, shares and grabs a lot of code from the open source market, and that will continue. Cloudera offers a lot of training classes, so if you want to pick a vendor for whether you're going to use Oracle technology or not, Cloudera is a great version of Hadoop that has a lot of backstops to help your organization. And Cloudera, frankly, is becoming the top industry standard for enterprise Hadoop. A lot of companies are buying Cloudera really for the Cloudera management component, which sits on top of your Hadoop databases, or not, I shouldn't say database, but your Hadoop instances to manage it. That's something that seems to be lacking in a lot of the open source components. All right. Okay. The next portion here is Oracle Exadata. And not to be confused with Exalytics, which we'll talk about in a second. So Oracle Big Data Appliance incorporates Cloudera's distribution, but the Oracle, the Exadata component is where you're going to run the Oracle database component. So it's engineered hardware to run big data and your traditional Oracle database technologies. Okay? All right. So what is Exalytics? Exalytics is basically, this could be argued as may or may not be really big data related, but if we're talking about Oracle's BI big data strategy, I felt like we needed to include this because it's certainly thrown around in big data discussions. But truly, Oracle Exalytics is it's again a combination of hardware and software that's optimized for performance. Traditional BI, like OBIE, is served up within the Exalytics machine. It features an optimized Oracle BI Foundation, Oracle times 10 in-memory database, Business Intelligence Foundation, which is basically OBIE. It has a large number of memory processors, which obviously can be configured depending on pricing and that sort of thing. But before we move on, I wanted to just briefly mention how Exalytics and Exadata go together. And really this is around the networking. So we all know that the speed of moving data around, it can be a large component of your lack of performance. And what they've done is they basically put something called an InfiniBand ports, which basically is extremely high-speed networking that connects your Exadata and Exalytics boxes together. Okay, so let's put all this together. This picture right here is really showing your structured and unstructured. So if we take the path on the top right and we go from your unstructured data, well, the logical place to put that is an Oracle Big Data. Again, hardware and software all bundled together. If you're running, analytics on top of that, you're going to use R. You're going to move that data after you analyze it into an Oracle Exadata box. So this is going to move your big data, probably running MapReduce, running R models on top of the big data, and moving that into your Oracle Exadata traditional database box. And then eventually running into an Exalytics box where the BI components would be served up. Okay, so again, big data is not a standalone concept. Big data fits within the rest of the components of your existing BI strategy and technology. All right, let's go to the next slide. Okay. What we have on this slide is beginning to look at other options, and there are many, many different ways that you can lay out this big data architecture, and that's part of the reason why it's really important that once you decide you're going to go down this strategy that you at least hire the right people, whether that's inside or outside your organization. But there's a lot of different ways to lay this out. So what I tried to show on this slide was some of the Oracle components and some of the open source components. And so we've talked about Cloudera Manager, Exalytics, and Exadata. We've briefly mentioned Oracle NoSQL. You'll notice on from the top down Oracle traditional database stack, these are things that most Oracle shops already have in-house. Oracle R is a fairly new component that really fits more on the big data side, but a lot of organizations already have that within their database engines. Most companies, if you've been in an Oracle shop, you have ODI and Oracle Loader, and there are special components of those that will help you to pull data from and to your traditional, or I shouldn't say your traditional, your big data solutions, whether that's in Cloudera, whether that's in all sorts of different varieties of big data databases. Okay, on the middle right, or I should say middle section, we've got Apache Cassandra, which is truly a database, or it's laid out as a more of a closer to a relational database format. Apache HBase is a similar thing. Apache Hive is a ETL tool from kind of the traditional, it would be a competitor with something like an Oracle data integrator. So I could have thrown 50 other components on here that one could be a replacement for another, but I think you get the idea that there's a lot of different components. And I suspect that this will continue for a while, and then eventually there'll be some consolidation as people agree on different tools. But keep in mind that right now, big data, Apache is very much an open source. There's a lot of people working on various different varieties of it, and it will continue to be in flux for a while. So. Okay, what are some of the critical mistakes that are made here? A lot of these mistakes are really around just frankly not having the right expertise in-house. It's easy to go down a wrong direction. I won't read all of these, but I think I've stressed the fact that big data, I see companies approaching this as an IT project without a problem. And we all know you could replace big data, replace whatever technology you want with that, and that's a recipe for disaster. And then really a lack of long-term roadmap. Big data is not one project. Big data needs to, if you're going to be serious about it, needs to be part of a long-term information management roadmap. Okay? And then the last is the lack of critical evaluation. Setting up a big data project isn't successful until the business is getting actual value out of that. And that has to be managed and monitored. So apply the same principles that you would for any other IT project. All right, let's go on. Okay, I wanted to end on two components or two stories. The first one is a project that we did for, and I'm going to call this to protect the innocent, but Acme Online Travel. It's one of the largest online travel organizations that we do quite a bit of work with. We built, in the beginning, a data warehouse that was very successful, but the volumes of data became higher and higher, and the cost, frankly, to manage it was growing too quickly. So enter big data. Part of, not the entire part, but part of the main driver was really to reduce the cost per terabyte, which was running at tens of thousands of dollars. A few years ago, we suggested that we look at big data for this client, and so hence we started on the big data strategy and big data project within this organization. One of the most recent changes to the work that we're doing at this client is really moving towards real time, which has been, up until recently, was a struggle for big data. Really, big data was great at managing large volumes of data and handling it quicker than traditional systems could, but in the real-time component, it's a piece that's really lacking from big data. So there's a product now that's come out called Impala, and that's a big component that we're implementing for this organization. All right. So this slide right here I thought would be interesting. It really talks about the cost and the query speed with using Hive versus Impala. So Impala, you can see that the time to query is dramatically faster than some of the more traditional tools like Hive. Okay, one of the pieces I want to call out on this is that when we say faster, on the that third line, it's really referring to much smaller data sets than we were placing into the RDBMS. The solution is significantly faster and more intelligence, insights, and cost. We've driven the cost down to $2,000 per terabyte in Hadoop from $10,000 in traditional tools. So you can see that there's a huge, huge cost saving, especially for organizations that have a ton of data. All right. So I think it's interesting. We're going to move to the next case study, and it's really talking about retail personalization with big data. The slide, the way it's laid out, is really trying to articulate the fact that originally retailers were all corner of the corner store, and they all knew you. And then enter stores like Walmart, Target, etc., and it's big box type of vendors. And that was great, and they were more successful certainly than the corner store. But the new thing is a combination of big data and predictive analytics, and I don't think you can separate the two. It's taking that technology and applying it down to where the big store treats you as if you just walked into the corner store. And that's where we're really heading with personalization. But to do those things intelligently, it's a massive amount of data, a massive amount of information from a variety of sources. And so this story right here is really talking about mixing point of sales data, click streams, social media, financial, spreadsheets, customer satisfaction, call center, all of that together. And that's a lot of information. All right, let's go to the next slide. Okay, so this is basically showing a very high-level view of how one of our customers, from a retail perspective, used this, specifically more around the big data component. So in this particular client used the Oracle Big Data Appliance and then used something called the Oracle Big Data Connectors, which is really just a high-level name for components like ODI. That data was, there were predictive analytics models run on it, and then the results of that were turned into, through the Big Data Connectors, into the Oracle traditional database tools, and that was used to serve up onto the website to make the whole experience much more personalized. Okay. All right. This last slide is really a third story around Oracle and insurance. So what we have right here is, starting from the top left, is your big data sources. So things like weather, geospatial, sensor information. That's just, it's too unstructured to fit within traditional methods of looking at data. So that information, which previously was just completely ignored, is put into Hadoop. On the right side are the conventional things that we always looked at. Point of sales data, some mobile data, and that's very, very easily put into your traditional Oracle database solutions. The trick is merging all of this information. So most people had the right half side, but now we've got to take all of that information and put it together into a data warehouse. And that is what is served up into traditional reporting and alerts. All right. Okay, we're going to end the presentation here. We'll take a few questions, but this is some of the other areas that we look at within the BI strategy and within our organization. So voice of the customers, predictive analytics, big data, and really visualizing all of that information. So I'll go ahead and take some questions here. All right, the first question is, just a second, I'm trying to read all of these. Okay, sorry, got them here. So there's a lot of talk, I'm just reading this question, there's a lot of talk about the market and the management and storage of data, but not a lot around big data analytics. And why is that? Well, a lot of that is that the analytics component is still something that's coming online. The question is correct. There's a lot of discussion around how to store it with Hadoop, but the actual visualizing it and getting it into the end user's hands is still, in my opinion, very primitive and coming online. So, but what you're definitely seeing, and hopefully you saw a little bit through this presentation around different techniques, and Oracle solution to this is really to move it, crunch the numbers within big data, and then move it towards more traditional tools, and to make it even faster through a combination of engineered hardware and software. All right, next question. What's the biggest obstacle preventing the adoption of big data for BI and analytics initiatives in today's organization? Good question. From what I've seen, I think frankly, one of the biggest things is fear. Organizations know they should do something, but they don't. They're not sure exactly what to do. And secondly, they're afraid that they don't have the right people. So, I think a lot of organizations are just going to have to move through that, make some mistakes, and learn from those mistakes. All right, next question. I think we had a question on, are different skills needed to work with big data analytics in an Oracle shop? And the answer is yes. The data scientist piece, frankly, is the piece that I think, even if you're an Oracle shop, you may not have. I suspect if you're a fairly large Oracle shop, you're going to have resources that can adapt to Java and some of these technologies. Maybe you'll need some additional expertise and guidance, but the data scientist portion is something that I think you can build the best big data solution. But if you're not applying predictive analytics and such, you're not going to get any value out of that. All right, next question here. Does big data analytics require the same level of governance and quality as analytics on the data warehouse from traditional or transactional data? I would say the answer is no. And that might sound weird. I'm not saying that there shouldn't be data governance. What I am saying is that the world of big data has so much messy data that to try to apply the same level of rigor that you would with traditional data, I don't think it's possible, for one, and I don't think it's practical for the second. So I would say no. I think you need to treat the two types of data a little bit different and have a much looser standard on governance for big data. All right, the last question, and I'll try not to get in trouble with this one. It says, do you recommend going with an all Oracle big data solution or using open source components? And I think that the answer, first off, I could take both sides, so I'll say maybe. If you're an Oracle shop through and through, then going with a Oracle pure solution is probably a great way to go. Now, my caveat to that is that if you're attempting to save money, you may not need all of the Oracle components. There may be some of them that would be best for you. My suggestion, especially for those organizations that are just sort of shopping around or trying to figure out or testing, is to start with a more of an open source solution. Get your feet wet without spending a lot of money, and then begin to harden that solution with some key investments. Okay. I want to end on this slide right here, and these are two sort of offers that we're making to the market and for the companies that we interact with. The first is a big data consultation. So if anyone attending this or who listens to this later, welcome to reach out to us, and we'd be glad to spend an hour really just in a consultation perspective, trying to understand where you're at right now and give some high-level recommendations for next steps. The next piece is taking it really to the next level, and that is the big data, what we call the Big Data Navigator. And this is about a 2 to 3 week engagement, and the end result of that is some test drives within big data. So at a minimum, you're going to get a high-level project plan, cost and timeline, but a lot of times we like to stand up a small solution within that time frame. So that's really kind of going to the next level within your big data journey. All right, well, thank you everybody for attending, and have a wonderful weekend.